work program for community planning.
Thank you, Kathleen, and good morning, councillors. For the record, Oliver Jacko, Community Planning. So, as you know, we come to you every year, typically in late fall, to review our next year's work program with the council. And the goal is really to focus limited resources on the community's highest priorities that the council chose for us. But we are one of the only departments that the council decide or approves our work program. And we try as much as we can to use our limited resources as efficiently as possible while creating the best chances for each effort to succeed. Recently, the planning projects are now located in two departments, that is community planning and public works. So this will be a joint presentation. It could either be Ahmad or Rob. So with that, I have my staff here, Sharon, as well as Colette, and we will be, it will be a team effort, and feel free to stop us at any time. And with that, I will turn it over to Sharon. And at the end of the presentation, I'll make a very last remark about Sharon, who is going to be leaving my shop for better pasture. So don't want to see her leave, but she got a better position in Thurston County. But I appreciate the time that she's been with us. So Sharon, take it away.
Okay, good morning. Thank you, Oliver. Good morning, councilors. If we could advance the slide. Okay, so this is the overview. We're going to be going through the land use work plan first, talking about the ongoing programs and commissions, the land use projects, and land use potential work plan items, and then we'll hand it over to Public Works to go through their transportation work plan. Next slide, please. Next slide. So this is the list of the commissions and the ongoing programs that you're familiar with. Community planning administers the Planning Commission, the Historic Preservation Commission, the Commission on Aging, the School Advisory Council, the City, County, and Tribal Coordination, Shoreline Master Program, and the Building Lands Program and Plan Monitoring. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So in 2018, the Department of Commerce provided an update to the Buildable Lands Program. And so the county has hired a consultant and formed a project advisory committee to work through the potential update so that we can be in compliance with the new guidelines. This work is ongoing and it will be carried over into 2021. And the report will be completed and submitted to council on June 30th, 2021, which is 3 years prior to the comprehensive plan update. If you have any questions, please stop me. Otherwise, we're going to keep going through. Next slide. This is the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area Management Plan. Every 10 years, the management plan is updated, and then the 6 counties in the gorge have to update their codes. And so we'll be going through that process. They just approved their work plan, and it's now getting reviewed. It needs to have concurrence with the Forest Service and the Secretary of Agriculture. We expect to receive the final adopted plan in January 2021, and then we'll have 270 days to adopt a new updated Title 40. And of course, it's a legislative decision, so it will go through the Planning Commission and the Council for approval, and then it will need concurrence with the Forest Service and the Secretary of Agriculture. So we anticipate that work would be completed by September 2022. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Shoreline Master Plan update. This is coming before you this year. You've already seen pieces of it, including the public participation plan, and this work will carry over into 2021. And I think that's all I have to say about that. It's ongoing work, so it's going to carry over and be completed by June 30th, 2021. Next slide, please. This is the coordinated water system plan. A periodic review is required of this every 5 years. This is prepared by the Clark County Water Utility Coordination Committee and adopted by each jurisdiction, and community planning will be ushering this through. So this is going to be require a comprehensive plan change because it's an amendment. It's an attachment to the comprehensive plan. And this is how the water service purveyors synchronize their growth targets with the comprehensive plan. Next slide. Okay, this is a continuation of the innovative housing project that's currently going on. The county is looking at various ways of reducing barriers and increasing opportunities for affordable housing and housing for aging in place initiatives. This may include amending the comprehensive plan housing element, the comprehensive plan and zoning maps, and Title 40. And this is carrying over till next year, and it's hopefully completed by 2021. And the study area is the Vancouver UGA. Next slide, please. So as you are familiar with, the county receives approximately 5 to 6 annual review requests every year. These are property owner initiated requests to amend the comp plan and zoning designations. We are in the, we're accepting pre-applications now through November 30th. We won't know until January 30th, the actual number of requests that we get, but this is an ongoing program that we have every year. Next slide, please. These are some Title 40 amendments that we anticipate needing to do this year. We came to you in a work session, I think in July, talking about essential public facilities and the need to add a definition and a process in Title 40 that would enable us to cite the essential public facilities. Community planning is going to assist community development to update the critical area ordinances for wetlands, critical fish and wildlife habitat, geologic hazards, and critical aquifer recharge areas. Other amendments that we anticipate are the flood insurance rate map needs to be updated, and we will assist Clean Water on the stormwater updates. And there may be additional shoreline updates related to the critical area and stormwater updates. Next slide, please. We also need to amend the countywide planning policies to add a policy to amend the policies. Like, we actually don't have a policy that would allow us to update that and amend them. So we're going to have a new policy on updating the policies. Next slide, please. So these 6 schools were scheduled to have updated their capital facilities plan and impact fees this year, and they have requested an extension from council to next year. So that's why that's there. We'll be processing that next year. Next slide, please. I think this may be the last slide for land use. So the capital facilities financial plan, this is a plan for financing capital facilities that were identified in the comprehensive growth management plan. And it covers a 6-year period from 2016 to 2021. And it's expected that this plan will be modified and updated to reflect the changing circumstances and financial realities. So that will be coming forward next year. Next slide. I think that's all we have for land use, and now we will hand this over to the transportation team.
Good morning, Council. This is Rob Klug with Public Works. I'm going to actually...
Chair, could I ask some questions before we move on?
Of course. Sorry. Yes.
Yes, you may. Thank you. Councilor Medergy, go ahead.
So, great presentation. Obviously, a very broad portfolio. And it just got me to thinking of why we don't hear from your department as much as we do from Parks and Public Works on issues like Camp Bonneville or Heritage Farm, which are, you know, however you couch it, they're land use. It's redevelopment, if you will, reuse. And boy, your portfolio certainly includes the kind of planning that would be valuable for both of those properties. And so I'm wondering what role you might have, and together with Public Works and the Parks Department.
Oliver, do you want to address that?
Councillor, this is Oliver. Thank you for that question. I will add that in the past, we have participated in the planning. I'll give an example of the Heritage Farm. It was the planning department that worked on that in addition with General Services at the time that it was the master plan was, the first master plan was put together. That was done in my shop. And then Camp Bonneville is more on the parks portfolio. And because of realization and the creation of legacy land, that function was then moved over to Public Works. But we do play a role. I know that I do communicate with Pat Lee, who is in charge of the legacy land, and I also do communicate with Kevin Tyler on issues relating to Camp Bonneville too, and then Public Works on transportation related issues. So there are some opportunities for us to continue to participate or provide professional planning expertise as they go forward with the plans. So we are indirectly involved. I hope that is answering your question. We don't take the lead. We used to, but because of those arrangements, legacy land and the parks and open space program being in Public Works. As a matter of fact, we are supposed to be coordinating, and Rob can speak to this. We are supposed to be coordinating with Public Works staff, particularly my staff that moved up to transportation as they take on the parks and open space plan. We will be playing some significant role as that goes forward. I hope that answers your question. We are not out of
Thanks for that, Oliver. I'm just hoping to maximize all the capabilities and expertise in each of these big projects. So thanks. That it sounds like you are still engaged.
Yes, we are. The final thing I would say before we turn it over to Rob is that as we go through all of these projects that we presented to you, they're all mandated, if I may use that term, i.e. required by RCW. We did provide you a spreadsheet, and on one of the columns, you will see the section dealing with the mandatory requirement of the RCW that require us to do some of these projects. So feel free to take a look at that additional document. So with that, I'll turn it over to Rob.
Council Chair, before I start, this is Rob. Are there any other questions before I start?
Right. Can I, do any other councilors have questions before we move to the transportation section? I don't see any. Thank you, Rob.
Okay. So I'm Rob Klug. I'm with Public Works, and I'm going to actually use part of this presentation, and also I've asked Rebecca to bring up another, the actual work plan. The reason being that we've had some changes in the recent past for what we're doing in Public Works and how we're dividing up our responsibilities. And Rebecca, if you wouldn't mind, please go to page 7 of the draft work plan. I believe it's page 7. Give me a sec here. Want to make sure we're starting out on the right page. Yes, page 7. Thank you. So if you wouldn't mind going back to the presentation real quick, Rebecca. So transportation in Public Works has about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, took on the transportation planning perspective. We brought some people up from Oliver's group up into Public Works. And we're working on the traditional transportation elements associated with planning. And in the very very recent past, in the last couple months, we've been asked to also assist with the Parks Division for some of their planning efforts and also some of their capital facilities program and their delivery of their capital programs. We have a very robust program, and we're looking to find ways to optimize the delivery of those projects consistent with how we're delivering the transportation projects. So aligning a lot of that work so that we're improving our delivery of the projects. So we are still working through all of the elements of what's coming over to transportation and what is still remaining with parks. So this is a little bit of a dynamic situation. But as we talked, or as Oliver and Sharon talked about with the commissions and programs, we have several commissions and programs that we're involved with. I prefer not to read from slides unless you'd really like me to. I'm not seeing any agreement on that. So, Rebecca, would you please do the next slide? So, at this point, Rebecca, would you please go to the actual work plan? I wanted to talk from that. Thank you. So some of the major elements that we've got that we're proposing to continue with working are the Bicycle Advisory and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. This is an important element for us to be able to align how our pedestrians and bicycles are treated and worked with on our transportation system. As developer agreements occur, we would continue working with those. Any changes to the Arterial Atlas, and then transportation program amendments as necessary. We're going to continue the transportation system plan, and we started that this year. And if you remember, or just to kind of refresh, the transportation system plan is a way for us to really provide the glue that goes between our actual programs along with our comprehensive plan and code. So it will help us deliver a better, more consistent project where people understand why we're doing what we're doing, not just what we're doing. Then we also have TIF amendments and capital facilities plan we're going to be working on. Next slide, please. The SR 503 corridor analysis is new. And what the reason or the purpose for that is that the DOT is going through and putting a median up 503, also known as 117th Avenue, and they're attempting to maximize the capacity and throughput of that state route. And so even though it is not part of the 20-year horizon for for urbanization, it's still something that we need to understand how we need to facilitate over time, because we don't get to tell the DOT what they're going to do, but we want to understand how our system is going to integrate with their choices on their arterial. Another new one is the neighborhood traffic program. We are asking in the 2021 budget for a line item specifically to investigate what we could do for neighborhood traffic program. That doesn't necessarily mean speed bumps everywhere. Our response for the entire 18 and a half years I've been at the county, whenever a resident calls up and says, people are going too fast in front of my home, I need you to do something, our response has been, please contact the Sheriff's Department. We don't have a program. And so we're looking at what types of things are appropriate for us to do without a preconceived notion as to what that program is. And so we've done a few things already along these lines where we have the mobile we have the radar feedback signs that are solar powered, and we can put them in a receiver and move them around. We're just looking at what should the county do, and we're planning on coming to you during the next year and saying these are the options of what could be done. Help us identify what is the appropriate thing for us to move forward on. And then part of switching over to our assistance with the Parks Department, we have the delivery of the PROS plan, which is required by September of next year. Then there's a question of what should our trail standards be, because right now we don't have a defined standard for trails. We're looking at what should we be doing associated with PIF credits. And we're starting to kind of pull back the onion of saying, what do PIF credits mean, and park impact fee credits, and what does that mean of how could a program be developed to actually implement a PIF credit system? And then, of course, we have a continuation of our transportation improvement program and a continuation of developing roundabout corridors. Next slide, please. And the others are deferred. So I will be happy to answer any questions you have. I've thrown a lot of information at you, so please let me know if there's anything you'd like additional information about.
Thank you, Rob. Are there questions? Councilor Medici, is here.
Thank you. I didn't raise my hand. I guess hitting the mute button sends a signal. So thanks for this information. I want to focus on one, the Arterial Atlas, and I've asked this from time to time in different contexts, and maybe of you as well. So I'm wondering what work has already been done in the past to look at the Arterial Atlas as it would relate to an additional corridor crossing the Columbia River, as that would inform our comp plan work and vice versa. It would relate to the RTC and the work it does, as well as Metro and Oregon. You know, I know in bits and pieces, I've seen some of that work done either through the RTC or Public Works itself, but I'm wondering when we're going to get to that as far as mapping out where that arterial would be or could be or should be a best place for the county so that we can start really talking in earnest about how it may impact the comp plan update or vice versa, and how we need to talk to the RTC in Oregon about similar work on their side of the river.
So, Councilor, I know we've talked about this, and this is a much bigger issue than just Clark County. It's an interstate concern, and I think I understand what your question is, but I think the answer is incredibly complicated. And so what I don't disagree, but I think that there's elements of how do you draw a line across the river? How do you facilitate on both sides an arterial or highway system to support that? How do you deal with the land use associated that will develop along those corridors, and a lot of other questions? So I don't know that this is simply a Arterial Atlas line on the map. I think it's a much bigger discussion, and I'm perfectly happy to have Oliver talk about some of the other effects besides just drawing a line on the map. Oliver, would you mind stepping in?
Well, and before Oliver speaks, so I'm not talking about just drawing a line on the map. I'm talking about doing informed work as to what's in our best interest, what we envision, because Oregon or the RTC, which kind of collates all those organizations of stakeholders, would say, hey, this is a land use issue within Clark County. Clark County needs to do this work first. And so it's so complicated that no one wants to really take a step forward. So that's what we need to think about and work on. How do we take a concrete step forward so that we can talk with Oregon, talk with the RTC, talk with our legislative delegation? We just can't keep saying it's so complicated we can't do it. So, Oliver?
Before you speak, Oliver, the other thing that I want to ask is, I have this question too. It's cart before the horse issue, or horse before the cart issue, and I agree with Councilor Medvegi on this, that when we looked at the 205 corridor, that was on the map for a long time. And I'm not talking about a line on the map either. But what I have heard since 2017, when I came onto the council, is that it's all something something that Clark County does have to take on. If we're going to move in any direction toward that direction. Now, I'm not even necessarily talking about having yet another, coordinating yet with Oregon. But if we were to, it's almost like we have to envision this for the future somehow. And if we don't start thinking about where this could be, development could take place, and it will be we'll be unable to do it because of the purchase of land, because of right of way, et cetera, that will not allow us to be able to follow through on something like that. So if we were to, I don't know how we can do this, but that is a really good question. And I would solicit help from our community planning and transportation. I would like for us to work together toward that goal and find out how can we do this, and not make it just a dream, but actually something that could be fruitful. At the same time, I understand that this kind of planning probably, it takes resources to do that, but I would just like to brainstorm a little bit about how that could happen. How do we start this? Because I do think we're growing so much, and we don't have money. We don't have money for any of this transportation stuff and everything else. So I understand all those things, all those obstacles, but I still would say that we need to start somewhere. So help us with that. Okay, Oliver, your turn.
Thank you. Thank you, councillors. Good question and good discussion. The only thing I will add is, if we were to do something like that, it will require the community to have a conversation of what direction the community wants to go. So if the county wants to take the lead, I think it is some kind of a conversation in the community that will entail like a transportation summit or something like that, to begin to talk about what is the future and what direction do the county wants to grow. And then we can begin to say, okay, if that's the desire of the community, what type of land use and what type of system do we have to plan for? But it's going to take the community at large to have that conversation. It had happened in the past, but after that, there was no traction. That's how that has fizzled. So if the council wants to set up a committee that includes all the elected official mayors and want to have that conversation, it could be facilitated. If someone got to take the lead, and then in the future, that type of conversation would then extend to across the river as to their own role and the role that our elected officials and representatives will play to make that a reality. That's how that conversation will start. But it's not going to start by my shop or public works, but we will be at the table to help facilitate that conversation. If the council wants to hire a consultant in the future to help us out, that is also something that that's how it was done in Washington County with all the things that were built out there. So that opportunity exists here, but someone got to take that lead to have a transportation summit, the community deciding on what direction they want to grow. Some people have talked about, do you want to build another bridge on the east side, or is it going to be on the west side? Those conversations will come based on the desire of the community. And then we, in our own opinion, not opinion, but in our professional capacity, will begin to say, this is the type of land use that could support that type of system. That's how some of the current system were built, whether it's padding, whether it's SR 500, but that was the desire of the community, that we need east-west, and then deciding on where to put that.
Okay, thank you. I would agree. It does, and I'm certain that Councilor Medviji does too, that it does have to be community action. And that gives us food for thought. I think what I really believe is holding it back right now is fear on the part of other community members, mayors, et cetera, that it would stop the I-5 bridge project. And everybody is so fearful because what has happened in the past with that. So I understand that fear, but at the same time, if we could assure them that we're going to work on both things, we could do that. But I appreciate that input, Oliver, and if the council were to go forward with something like this, the council would have to agree, and it is possible that maybe, we could have a consultant for a short time to try to put together something. So.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't know. I know Colette, some of my staff are also listening in. What also could complicate things, and it could be a challenge because councillors, that it will be a challenge to have the two conversations going when we are in the process of updating the plan. So I would like that conversation sometime to happen maybe during the off season when we are not engaged in the update of the plan. So we don't have the two things going on at the same time. When we complete the plan, often what takes us time is, as you know, trying to defend the plan, which sometimes take us 7. The last time was not this 2016, but the 2007 took us 7 years, almost 14 years to come into compliance. So if we can do plans that bring less challenge to us, or during the the periodic review, the council can decide to form a steering committee that comprises the councillors and elected officials and begin that conversation with the help of a facilitator or a consultant. Both Rob and I know folks that could help us in that conversation.
Definitely.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
The other thing, Chair Quiring, is it's not just the land use; it's also the construction of a significant amount of infrastructure on both sides to facilitate that bridge. And we need to be honest about the fact that from the county's perspective, our tip is we're spending the money that we have. And so in order for us to take on new, to ultimately be able to build new facilities and keep up with all the other needs, we have to have a really good discussion about how to accomplish that.
Understood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm trying to stay away from all the hot button words.
Yeah, but councillors are correct. Anytime you begin that conversation now, the focus is going to shift to the I-5. What do you do with the I-5? Anyway, good conversation. Councillor, the last thing I want to touch upon, Rebecca, if you can move the slide up, please. No, I mean, go down further. I'm sorry. The last page. Yeah, councillors, these are the two projects that are still on hold. The council, if you recall, late February of 2018, the council had conversation about agricultural economic assessment. I believe that Lindsay made an effort to go out for a bid or something like that, but the council decided to put that on hold. That is still on hold. Don't know what the desire of the council is. I'm not pushing you to approve that anytime soon. The other item that is also on hold is the freight rail dependent use overlay. We have finished phase 1, and you are aware that phase 2 was put on hold, not by staff, but because of the litigation. So we are still hoping to pick that up when legal and council said it's okay to pick that project up. So those are the 2 projects that are still on hold. So that's all we have, councillors. What I will be coming back to you likely at a council time is for you to approve the work program, both community planning and transportation work program for 2021.
Okay,
We take questions.
who's, I can't see everybody, so
Councillor Olson here.
Councilor Olson, go ahead.
Yeah, could we go back up one slide, Rebecca? So I just wanted to touch base just quickly on the pros plan and the conversation around trails and PIF credits. And I know we've been talking about both of these for a while. And I guess I'm wondering, is this a hard deadline here for the pros update that would include a PIF credit plan and then also PIF for trails and trail standards? And because I guess I'm wondering if we can actually get this done. We've been talking about it for a while.
I apologize. My dogs are barking. Can you give me a second to quiet them, please?
Sure. Because and I don't know in here if it addresses the PIF for trails specifically. So I know it talks about trail standards. Okay, there. Okay, I see it in there. Okay.
So, Councillor, I worked very closely to try to word this to leave it as open as possible because I'm brutally honest here. The PIF credits discussion is going to be very complicated. And so the way it's worded is that we want to start stepping in and figuring out what the challenges really are associated with PIF credits and be able to have the discussions to say, how are we going to move forward? So there's a lot of wiggle words into exactly what we're going to deliver with the PIF credits, and I'm being completely upfront about that.
Okay, so I thank you. I respect that. I also think that they don't have to be complicated, and I think we've had that conversation in the past as well. So they don't need to be as complicated as TIF credits. They can be pretty simple.
Understood.
Yeah, and then secondarily, I think just the ability to use PIF for trails specifically.
So that's part of the discussion we're having because in order for PIF to be used for anything, it has to be a part of the CFP according to state law. And so we're looking at whether or not the trails are indeed a part of the CFP or not, and how those PIF costs, the PIF revenues were generated.
Okay, and so I recall having this conversation already as well. So I guess my question is, when are we going to make some progress on this topic? Because we've been running around in circles on it for a year and a half.
Understood. And I don't have an answer for you because we're identifying that we need to resolve this. We understand that it's a council priority, but there's a lot of moving parts that we need to look at the overall program.
And Councillor Baum, I saw you nodding your head. I actually think we updated the capital facilities plan to broaden that description. And I could be wrong if I'm misremembering, but.
I don't know the answer to that. Does anybody yet? Councillor Blum was nodding his head. Him I cannot see. So were you nodding your head, Councillor Blum? And do you have something to say?
No, just agreeing with Councillor Olson's comments that I feel like we're having the same conversation over and over again and not making progress. So would love to see whatever needs to be done. If we need to update that plan, the council updates that plan. So let's do that. But yeah, would love to see progress on this.
And that is our intent. That's why we're putting it on this list to make it a specific item that we are going to be working on and acknowledging that it's a council priority and we want to move forward with the council on
it. And Madam Chair, I just want to, not to pile on, but I have an interest in this as well. And so I just want to make sure you understand that I also think it's a priority. So I'm hopeful we can make some concrete steps forward. I did want to say the agricultural economic on hold plan, that was before my time. So I didn't know all the issues behind that or why it was on hold. Maybe someone offline can inform me about that. And then as well on the rail dependent use, I certainly have an interest in revisiting that and doing more work on that. I know the council put it on hold, and that occurred prior to me joining the council as well. And I'd also just generally comment that I have somewhat of a different vision as to how we should have approached the rail development zoning. I mean, I would have wanted to include the whole rail line so that we could look towards rehabilitation and industrial development, possibly towards the end of the railroad line, not from Battleground, closer into Vancouver, because I think that makes a better use of the rail line, and it also could possibly bring more jobs to the Yacolt-Amboy area, which is certainly in my district. So I do have an interest, and I know it's very complicated by the ongoing lawsuit. I don't know how we sort through both, but I think there's quite a bit of work that we could be doing still on the rail dependent legislation, how it applies to our county on the entirety of the rail line and the historic portion of it, particularly that's been greatly impacted by the pandemic. So anyway, that I'm just voicing that opinion that I would like to get. I'd like to find out more about the economic plan that was put on hold, and then I would throw my voice in the ring that I really would like to do more work on the rail dependent and move forward with that in anticipation of this settlement eventually of this operator dispute.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Do we have more to this work session, Oliver?
No, that's all we have. As I indicated, I will be coming back to council at a council time for your approval.
Oh, okay. Just to make sure.
Sorry, Madam Chair, Councilor Medvigi, if you want to reach out to me, I can provide you some background on the agricultural assessment project. There was a variety of reasons why that was put on hold. On the freight rail, as you know, it gets very difficult to work on a project when you have a legal issue. So sometimes you want those legal issues to be resolved before you pick on the project again. So there is no interference or, in my opinion, bias one way or the other. So you want to be on a clean slate. So I'm anticipating that, you know, the legal issue, I'm not an attorney, but I'm anticipating that the legal issues will be resolved and we pick on the project again. So much has been done.
Thank you. I look forward to talking with you.
Thank you, Councillor. So that's all we have. I will work with the county manager to put this on your agenda, one of your council time agenda for approval.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, all participants. And we'll adjourn this work session, but be back here at 10 o'clock for another one and for council time.
Just a reminder,
Oh,
just a reminder, the next work session at 10:30 is on a different WebEx. So you'll be logging out of this one onto a different WebEx.
it's at 10:30? Sorry.
Nope. Hold on, let me just take a quick look. Yes, it is scheduled for 10:30.
Okay, see y'all at 10:30.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.